Alright, so today we're going to start with our next religion. This will be the final one. Well, not quite the final one. But it's the last of the 5 main world religions that we'll cover. So Buddhism gets its roots from Hinduism. It does have a lot of these same characteristics. Meaning that Buddhists do believe in karma and reincarnation. That's really where the majority of the similarities stop. But Buddhism is going to be founded by a man named Siddhartha Gautama. That's how you pronounce that. But he's going to grow up as a member of that wealthy warrior and prince caste. Alright, now the story of Gautama is kind of different. So, like I said, he grew up as part of this wealthy warrior and prince caste. He lived in a palace. There was this large estate that he lived on. And through most of his life, up until, I believe, early 20s, he never really left his family's property. He lived a pretty sheltered lifestyle. He was in an arranged marriage. So his wife was picked out for him. They had a child together. And that's kind of how his life was. Everything was kind of set up for him that way. And like I said, he was from a wealthy family. But the story goes that one day he decides to leave the palace and go on a walk. And on this walk, he sees 4 different people. He sees an old man, he sees a sick man, and a corpse. If you don't know what a corpse is a dead body. And then finally he sees a holy man or a priest. And he takes that as a sign that he is supposed to figure out why people suffer. He kind of takes that as that, obviously we all get old, we all get sick, we all die. There's not really anything stopping that. So, there's a lot of pain and suffering in life he feels, and there's got to be some way to end all of that human suffering. So he decides to reject his caste, and he gives up his titles, he leaves his palace, leaves his family behind, and he becomes a nomad. He starts wandering the countryside, trying to figure out why people suffer and how he can stop it. Now guys, on your slide here, it's got number 15 again. For this one, I want you to write down the word Buddha. It's in blue with the yellow. If it won't fit on the back of your number 15 card, put it on the front. But make sure you include the word Buddha, because you're going to need to know that Buddha means enlightened one. Now, Gautama's journey is going to take him about 6 years. So during those 6 years, he pretty much is a wandering monk. He travels the countryside, spends his time meditating, and practicing self-denial and eating very little. What that means is that he doesn't really take care of himself all that well. There were some days that, according to legend, he would only allow himself to eat a single grain of rice. But during this journey, or toward the end of this journey, he kind of gets disheartened. He realizes that, he left his family. He's been doing this for 6 years, and he still doesn't really have any answers. So he sits under a tree one day and starts meditating. And their belief is that during this meditation is when he has this enlightenment, or a religious awakening. And he thinks he understands and knows why people suffer, and he thinks he knows how he can prevent some of this suffering. Which takes us to number 17. So he comes up with something called the Four Noble Truths. The first part of that is he says that life is full of pain. There's all kinds of pain and suffering in life. That's just the way it is. But he then says that a lot of our suffering comes from our desire for possessions, or our desire to have things. If you think of it this way, I'm sure a lot of you guys made a Christmas list, okay? And let's just pretend and say you got every single thing on your list. So, show of hands, how many of you could fill out another list today of stuff that you want? Probably most of us, yeah. Okay, that's just the way that we are. Okay? People want things. If you went on a shopping spree today and bought every single thing that you ever wanted, odds are sooner or later there's going to be something else that you want. Okay? So he says that we have some desire for all this stuff, and we unfortunately can't get everything that we want. We're always wanting more things. Once we get it, there's something down the line that we're going to want again or more of. Which leads to number 3. He says that if people can't stop desiring possessions or stop wanting stuff, they can prevent a lot of this suffering. And then lastly, he says that in order to kind of stop wanting these possessions or stop this desire for possessions, if you follow something called the Eightfold Path, you can eliminate some of that pain and suffering as well. And this will take us to number 18. So with our Eightfold Path, number 1 is knowing the truth. That just means those 4 noble truths. Resisting evil. Try to prevent yourself from doing bad things. 3, say nothing to hurt others. And again, these are things that will help prevent that human suffering. So obviously if you say mean things to other people, and not only are you going to hurt them, but eventually you'll probably feel worse about it yourself, or bad for saying it yourself. 4, respect life and property. So Buddhists believe that all life is sacred, just like Hindus, because like I said, they also believe in that karma and reincarnation. But with respecting property, remember, Hindus are not going to have a bunch of possessions. So the few things that they do have, they're going to make sure they take good care of. Number 5, hold a job that does not injure others. This could be something military-based or anything like that. 6, free your mind of evil. We've all probably thought mean thoughts here and there. Especially, you guys don't do it yet, but especially with driving. Get some road rage, yeah. So we all have mean thoughts. You're supposed to try to prevent yourself from having those mean thoughts, or recognize when you do, and try to think differently. 7 is control your feelings. That kind of goes along with the other ones we've said. And lastly, number 8 is to meditate. So meditation in Buddhism is just a process of trying to kind of control your thinking, trying to relax, and kind of really do all these other 7 things here. But meditation is a very important or popular thing for Buddhists. Number 9 and number 16. Now, we'd already said that Gautama, he grew up as a Hindu. So he believed in that karma and reincarnation, but he completely rejects the ideas of the Vedas. He rejects that caste system as well. So the basic teachings of Buddhism are going to be those 4 noble truths combined with the Eightfold Path. But the purpose of Buddhism is that if you can fully free yourselves of that desire and pain, you can reach a state of nirvana, which is kind of like their version of heaven, a state of happiness and peace, and your soul escapes that cycle of reincarnation.